Mark had been a widower for 3 years, which meant his sex life had also been dead for 3 years. His daughters were feral little tornadoes who treated bedtime like a hostage negotiation and breakfast like open warfare. He needed help, desperately. So when the alien woman showed up at the shelter bulletin board with a sign that read Outcast, needs home, Mark didn't think. He blurted it out before his brain caught up with his mouth. I need a mother for my daughters, you need a home. So, marry me. Silence. Then the alien woman tilted her head, mandibles clicking softly like she was scanning his words for hidden codes. Her name was Zyra. She had sharp teeth, sharp eyes, and sharp hips that looked like they could snap him in half, which, disturbingly, he didn't hate the thought of. Mother, she repeated, slowly. You are appointing me as Supreme Domestic Commander. Mark swallowed. More like someone who cooks dinner, helps with homework, maybe keeps me from drinking myself into an early grave. Her lips curved into something that was definitely not a smile but more of a predatory grin. Yes. Authority granted. I accept. She said it like he had just signed his life away to a galactic empire. Which, technically, he had. His daughters, 9 and 11, were eavesdropping like professional spies from behind the couch. Dad, whispered the older one, did you just propose to an alien? Mark rubbed his forehead. It's not a proposal, it's marriage, Zyra corrected firmly. You will supply shelter, food, and access to your reproductive organs. In exchange, I will assume command of your spawn. The younger daughter gasped. She's gonna recycle you in bed. Recycle isn't the word, honey, Mark muttered. But you're not entirely wrong. Zyra nodded solemnly. My people copulate every 36 hours. Is your stamina sufficient? Mark's brain short-circuited. He was a single dad barely surviving on coffee and guilt. 36 hours? He hadn't even had a one-night stand in years. But damned if he was going to admit weakness. Oh yeah, he lied. I've got veteran stamina. The girls burst out laughing so hard one of them fell off the couch. Zyra didn't notice, she was already marching around the living room, inspecting furniture like she was planning military fortifications. This couch is inefficient. Too soft for discipline. Replace with steel bench. Curtains block tactical view, remove. Children will rise at 0500 for drills. Drills. Mark echoed. Obedience drills, she clarified. Failure results in grounding. The older daughter groaned. Grounding for what? For breathing too loud, Zyra answered without hesitation. Mark pinched the bridge of his nose. This was escalating fast. Look, maybe we could start smaller? Like, making dinner. Dinner. Zyra tilted her head. Explain ritual. You cook food. Then we eat. Her mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Very well. I will prepare rations suitable for assimilation. 15 minutes later, she set down a bubbling bowl of something gray and slimy that smelled like burned fish and battery acid. The daughters stared in horror. It's slime porridge, Zyra said proudly. High protein. Strengthens internal organs. Also acts as laxative. The older daughter whispered, Dad, if you eat that, you're gonna shit yourself into another dimension. Mark forced a smile, spoon in hand, sweat beading down his neck. It's fine. She's trying. Marriage is about compromise. He took one bite and immediately regretted every life decision that led him here. It was like licking a car battery dipped in spoiled yogurt. Zyra beamed. Success. The kids gagged dramatically, already sneaking Pop-Tarts out of the cupboard like black market contraband. Later that night, after the girls were grounded for rolling their eyes too often, Mark tried to have a private word with Zyra. Okay, so, about this marriage thing. Yes, she interrupted. You will share your bed. He blinked. Right, but I just meant maybe we should. I accept. I will assume mating position at dawn. Mark's face heated. You don't waste time, do you? Efficiency is critical, she replied, dead serious. Prolonged hesitation reduces reproductive success. He coughed. Well, I like a little hesitation. Builds suspense. Her eyes narrowed, gleaming. Foreplay. Yeah, he said weakly. Something like that. She stepped closer, lowering her voice to a husky growl. In my culture, foreplay involves breaking furniture. Which piece of your dwelling is expendable? Mark laughed nervously, tugging at his collar. None of it. I can barely afford this place. Unacceptable, she snapped. Furniture will be sacrificed. Select one. From the hallway, the kids shouted, Sacrifice Dad's bed. Mark groaned. You two are supposed to be asleep. Zyra smirked. They are efficient. Already suggesting proper ritual. At that moment, Mark realized he had made the worst, and possibly the sexiest, mistake of his life. By the time he crawled into bed, Zyra had already claimed half of it, spread out like a victorious general on conquered land. She glanced at him once, sharp teeth glinting. Sleep well. Tomorrow, you are grounded for lack of discipline. He groaned into his pillow. This marriage is going to kill me. And for the first time in years, he drifted to sleep with a smile on his face. Mark woke up to military horns. Not an alarm clock, not his daughter's screaming, but an actual alien war trumpet echoing through the house. Zyra stood in the doorway holding a plasma grenade like it was a spatula. Rise. Obedience drills begin. His younger daughter peeked from under a blanket. Dad, she's terrifying, but also kinda cool. The older one yawned. At least she's scarier than Mrs. Halverson from math class. Mark groaned, dragging himself out of bed. Zyra, people don't do boot camp at 6 in the morning. We do coffee. Coffee is weakness, she snapped. You will consume slime porridge or risk digestive collapse. I'm already collapsing, he muttered. Breakfast was chaos. Zyra plopped down 4 bowls of her goo. The girls took one look and immediately hid Pop-Tarts under the table. Mark tried diplomacy. Maybe we could mix cultures, like half slime porridge, half pancakes. Zyra tilted her head. Pancakes? Flat human food discs? Inefficient. Mark sighed. Everything doesn't have to be efficient. Sometimes it just has to taste good. She squinted at him. Are you suggesting foreplay with food? He nearly choked on his coffee. What? No. I mean, well, unless you want to. The daughters burst out laughing, and Zyra raised one brow. Later. We will test. By mid-morning, Zyra had reorganized the house like a barracks. Laundry sorted by combat readiness, living room turned into a drill zone, kids forced to march while chanting multiplication tables. Left, right, 7 times 8 is 56. Mark leaned against the wall, sipping his mug, shaking his head. I just wanted help with homework. Instead, I got a dictator with really nice legs. The older daughter whispered to her sister, Dad's totally into her. Gross, the younger replied. When Mark tried to assert himself, okay, enough marching, time for cartoons, Zyra rounded on him. You challenge my authority. I'm the dad here, he said firmly. Incorrect. You are husband subordinate. You provide seed, shelter, and comedic incompetence. I provide command. Mark blinked. So I'm just a sex toy with a mortgage. Yes, she replied without hesitation. The daughters howled with laughter. She gets you, Dad. That night, Mark attempted to regain dignity through seduction. He lit candles, dimmed lights, even put on cologne he hadn't worn since college. Thought maybe we could negotiate privately. Zyra studied the setup like it was a trap. This looks like an ambush. It's a date, he explained. Romance. Flirting. You know, the fun before the horizontal negotiations. Her mandibles clicked in thought. So, combat warm-up disguised as intimacy. He grinned weakly. Something like that. They ended up in the bedroom where things went sideways fast. Every time he tried to kiss her, she countered like a sparring match. When he nibbled her neck, she grabbed his wrist and flipped him onto the mattress. Dominance ritual proceeding, she announced. Mark wheezed, pinned under her. Sweetheart, this isn't exactly how humans do it. Then you will learn, she said firmly, grinding against him in a way that was half terrifying, half incredible. The next morning, the bed frame was in pieces, the dresser broken, and Mark staggered into the kitchen with hair like he'd been electrocuted. The kids stared at him, then at Zyra, who looked perfectly composed. The younger one smirked. Dad, you okay? You walking funny. Mark coughed into his hand. I'm fine. Just strained my back. From what? She asked sweetly. Zyra answered instead. Excessive breeding attempts. He lacks endurance. The girls choked on their cereal, laughing so hard milk sprayed everywhere. Mark buried his face in his hands. At the PTA meeting that week, Zyra volunteered to help. Mark begged her to behave. She promised nothing. The moment she walked in, suburban moms froze. Zyra radiated menace in her half-armored outfit, glaring at juice boxes like they were poison. When one kid acted up, she stood and bellowed, "Silence, hatchling, or I will eject you into vacuum." Every parent gasped. Mark muttered, "She's kidding. She jokes, dark humor, ha ha." No one laughed. Later, another mom whispered to Mark, "Is she safe around children?" He shrugged helplessly. "Safer than me. She actually gets them to do homework." Back home, the kids couldn't stop giggling. Mom scared the whole PTA. "She should run the school," the younger one added. Mark rubbed his temples. "She's not supposed to terrify people. She's supposed to help." Zyra placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "Fear is help. Fear creates order." "That's not how we do it here," he argued. "We use patience. Encouragement. Maybe some bribery." "Bribery?" Her eyes gleamed. "Like when you offer me chocolate before requesting intercourse." Mark flushed scarlet. "That's different." The girls shrieked with laughter. "Dad bribes her for sex." Mark groaned. "I hate my life." That night, Zyra declared him grounded for insubordination. Grounded, in her mind, meant handcuffing him to the bed and lecturing him about leadership while straddling him. "You must accept my command," she told him. "Pretty sure this is illegal," he gasped, writhing under her. "Illegal or not, you are aroused," she said smugly. He hated how right she was. By the end of the week, the kids were calling her Mother Overlord, the neighbors were filing noise complaints, and Mark was too exhausted to argue. And yet, he caught himself smiling. The house was chaos, but at least it wasn't lonely anymore. Mark thought he understood sex. He was wrong. Zyra's idea of intimacy was less romance and more military exercise with orgasms attached. When she said, "Tonight we begin seduction rituals," he'd stupidly imagined candles, lingerie, maybe some music. Instead, she returned to the bedroom carrying oils, ropes, and something that looked suspiciously like a flamethrower. "What the hell is that?" he asked, pointing. "Pheromone diffuser," she said, pressing a button. The room filled with purple smoke that made his nose itch until he sneezed so hard he almost pulled a rib. "Sexy," he wheezed, eyes watering. "Correct," she replied seriously. "Your fluids are responding." The daughters, of course, heard every noise through the walls. They whispered and giggled in their room like gossiping spies. "Dad's either getting lucky or getting murdered." "Same thing," the younger one said, smirking. Back in the bedroom, Mark tried to set the mood. "Okay, let's take it slow. Humans like kissing, touching, soft stuff." Zyra pounced, knocking him flat. "Touching confirmed." He gasped under her. "No, I mean gentle." "Gentle wastes energy. Efficiency matters." She ground against him with alien precision that left him moaning like a man being tortured and blessed at once. At one point, she started chanting in her guttural alien tongue. It sounded like a war cry. "What's that?" he panted. "Erotic hymn of victory," she replied, dead serious. he groaned. Of course it is. The bed frame gave out halfway through. Mark collapsed with it, sprawled on the floor. Zaira didn't even pause. Continue, she ordered, straddling him in the wreckage like a conquering empress. By morning, he crawled into the kitchen in boxes, limping like he'd fought a marathon. The girls stared, then broke into uncontrollable laughter. The older one snorted, "Dad, did she eat you alive?" Zaira calmly sipped tea. He survived initial phase of bonding. Average performance. Improvement required. Mark groaned into his coffee. Average? I nearly died. Death is acceptable during mating, she replied flatly. The girls howled. Dad's not even good at sex. Mark nearly slammed his head on the table. Eat your cereal and shut up. Later that day, Zaira decided to expand her cultural influence. She insisted on demonstrating her people's romantic courtship customs. These included massaging him with glowing oils that left him slippery as a buttered eel, biting his shoulder hard enough to leave welts shaped like constellations, and whispering threats about what would happen if he ever disobeyed her again. To his horror, it turned him on. You enjoy this, she observed smugly. No, I'm just, oh, damn it, fine, maybe a little. Her smirk was lethal. Then kneel. Sweetheart, I've been kneeling for Barbie shoes and lost socks for 10 years. My knees are already destroyed. Then kneel harder. When he finally caved, she declared him officially bonded, which sounded like both a marriage certificate and a death sentence. The daughters noticed the marks on his neck. You, Dad, she branded you. It's just hickeys, he muttered. Looks like a crime scene, the younger quipped. Mark pulled his collar higher. Mind your business. That night, round 2 was worse, or better, depending on perspective. Zaira unveiled alien toys that looked illegal in 12 galaxies. He stared. That thing has rotating spikes. I'm not putting it anywhere. It is for stimulation, she explained. It's for a lawsuit, he shot back. Somehow, she convinced him. Hours later, he admitted through gritted teeth that it was the best and worst orgasm of his life. The kids, once again, heard everything. Dad's dying. Nah, listen, those are victory cries. At breakfast, Mark sat gingerly on a pillow. Zaira looked radiant, like she'd just conquered Rome. The daughters smirked. So, Dad, you and Mom, bonding again. Mark scowled. Eat your damn Pop-Tarts. Zaira added cheerfully, his stamina improved by 6%. The girls burst into hysterics. Despite the embarrassment, something shifted. The daughters started warming to her. They liked her discipline, even if it came with plasma grenade threats. They liked how she backed them up against nosy neighbors. And Mark, well, Mark was definitely enjoying the bonding, even if it left him sore in places he didn't know existed. One night, lying next to her while his body begged for mercy, he admitted, You know, for an outcast, you're kind of incredible. She turned, eyes softening for the first time. And for a fragile human, you endure well. It wasn't a declaration of love, not yet. But it was something. And when she pulled him under again with that wicked grin, he didn't fight it. Mark thought surviving Zaira's sex marathons was his greatest challenge. He was wrong. The real nightmare arrived in a government van with child services painted on the side. A nosy caseworker stepped in, clipboard ready, eyes sharp. Mr. Daniels, we've had reports of unusual living conditions. Mark paled. The kids froze. Zaira leaned in the doorway like a queen ready for war. The inspection began. Every room screamed disaster. Burn marks on the walls from her plasma cooking, alien pheromone smoke lingering in the hall, and the broken bed frame dumped in the yard like a crime scene. The caseworker scribbled furiously. And who exactly is this woman? Mark blurted, She's my wife. Zaira corrected, bonded mate. Owner of his body. Mother unit of children. The woman blinked. Owner of his what? The daughters smirked like demons. It's true. She's in charge of him. Mark groaned. The inspection grew worse. Zyra insisted on demonstrating her parenting skills. When the caseworker asked how she disciplines the girls, Zyra declared proudly, by vaporizing disobedience. The woman nearly fainted. You vaporize them. Not yet, Zyra said calmly. Mark jumped in, sweating. It's, metaphorical. You know, tough love. The daughters whispered loudly, not metaphorical. Things hit rock bottom when the caseworker found the alien bonding devices in the closet. Her face drained. Mr. Daniels, are these weapons? Mark stammered, technically, marital aids. Zyra added proudly, they rotate at 6 speeds. The woman nearly dropped her clipboard. The kids burst into uncontrollable laughter. Dad's toys are intergalactic. Mark wanted to crawl into a hole. The caseworker fled the house mumbling about psychiatric evaluations. Mark collapsed on the couch, face in his hands. We're screwed. Zyra tilted her head. We conquered inspection. She fled in defeat. Mark laughed bitterly. That's not conquering, honey. That's terrifying a government official. But something unexpected happened. The daughters actually hugged Zyra. She's crazy, the older one admitted, but she fights for us. The younger added, yeah. Even if she almost gets Dad arrested for kinky alien weapons. Mark stared, stunned. The girls liked her. Really liked her. That night, after the girls went to bed, he finally said it. You're not just here for shelter. You're part of us now. Zyra's eyes softened. Then you accept the bond fully. Mark sighed. Yeah. Even if it kills me in bed. She smirked. Then prepare. Round 3 began, this time with her pulling out a translator device to narrate everything she was doing in a calm robotic voice. Now inserting tongue. Increasing thrust rhythm. Human vocalizing distress and pleasure. Mark laughed so hard he almost lost his rhythm. You're using a sex robot announcer. Educational purposes, she said innocently. The girls, of course, overheard again. Dad's dying again. Nope, his laughing. By morning, the house was chaos, but it was that chaos. Zyra sat at the table in Mark's old t-shirt, sipping coffee like she owned the place. The girls argued about cereal. Mark limped in with dark circles under his eyes and a grin he couldn't hide. The older daughter asked, So, you two like, married now? Mark hesitated. Zyra answered, yes. Bond sealed. The girls groaned in unison. Gross. But their eyes were bright. They weren't scared anymore. They weren't alone. Weeks later, the caseworker returned with backup. But this time, instead of chaos, she found a family. A strange, slightly insane family, but a family. The girls defended Zyra fiercely. Mark cracked jokes at his own expense. And Zyra, terrifying plasma grenades aside, showed she'd die before letting anyone hurt them. The caseworker reluctantly closed the file. Unorthodox. Disturbing. But functional. Mark muttered, that's our family motto. That night, when the kids were asleep, Mark sat with Zyra on the couch. You know, I didn't think this would work. I just wanted someone for them. But turns out, I needed you too. She leaned in, kissed him softly, for once without trying to bruise his ribs. And I needed a home. Now we have one. Then, of course, she ruined the tender moment by whispering, prepare for phase 4 bonding. Mark groaned. God help me. The next morning, he limped to the kitchen again, wincing as he sat down. The girls smirked knowingly. So, Dad's dead. Zyra smirked wider. He endured. Barely. Mark glared. Shut up and pass the toast. The girls burst into laughter. And for the first time in years, Mark realized his house wasn't just full. It was alive. Messy, chaotic, sexually confusing, but alive. He raised his coffee. To family. The girls clinked their juice boxes. Zyra clinked her plasma grenade. And somehow, it all felt perfect.